Well, hello everybody. Happy Saturday. This is Steve the Guide, and I promised that by the end of the week, I would upload the first episode of a series diving into the end times. And I still plan to do that, but it would be remiss of me to begin that without talking about the news in the last couple of days. Now, my last episode was about Israel's pager attack against Hezbollah, which has been nicknamed by observers Operation Under the Belt. And boy, has this story taken flight and developed a lot since that episode a couple days ago. And therefore, as I said, it would be remiss of me not to talk about it. So I need to spend the first few minutes of this episode continuing with the subject that I began a few days ago, and that is the developments in the war between Israel and Hezbollah, which began on October 8th of last year when Hezbollah entered into the fray begun by Hamas the day before with its unprecedented massacre of Israelis on the border with Gaza the day before, and as you know, ushering in this latest war, the second longest war in Israel's history, aside from its independence war. So let's go over the update for that before we get into the Bible and the end times. You'll forgive me for occasionally having to look down at my notes here. There's so many things here that it would have been impossible for me to do it on the fly by memory, even though I have a pretty good memory, which is this: concerning the attacks that began last week with the pager attacks. They were followed the next day by a similar attack, but this time walkie-talkies. So we're talking about 2 days in a row of Israeli attacks on Hezbollah's communication devices. And Lebanon claims that 37 people were killed over those 2 days. Now, what's interesting is the walkie-talkie aspect of these attacks. The walkie-talkies are from a company, or alleged to be from a company, based in Japan. The model's called V82. The problem is that the company that manufactures them in Japan claims to have discontinued manufacturing them back in 2014, which means that any of them that were purchased since then are counterfeits. Who are the counterfeiters? Well, none other than Israel's intelligence agency, the Mossad. So Lebanon claims that a total of 37 people were killed over those 2 days, and of course, thousands injured and maimed. Now, this is where the story gets more interesting. Yesterday, Saudi Arabia, via their intelligence agency, claimed to have intercepted an internal memo by Hezbollah concerning the casualty count from the pager and walkie-talkie attack. I posted it on my Facebook page yesterday, and now I'm just going to recite to you the figures as they've been translated into English from that Saudi intercept of the internal Hezbollah memo. And this is what they claim the true casualty count is: way more than the 37 admitted to by Lebanon and Hezbollah officially. The Saudis claim, and this is, again, just them interpreting the memo, 879 Hezbollah terrorists killed, 291 senior commanders died, a total of 509 Hezbollah operatives were blinded, and here's an important number, hence giving the name Operation Under the Belt. 1,735 Hezbollah operatives were injured in their reproductive organs. In other words, those that weren't quick enough to draw these pages from their pockets suffered emasculation, loss of one's man parts, for lack of a better phrase. And then here's a figure that doesn't make sense in English, the way they worded it here: 613 permanent function damage. What does that mean? Does that mean that they're estimated to never be able to be recycled back into Hezbollah's front lines? I would assume that all those other injuries especially the people injured to their reproductive organs, in addition to the 500 plus people blind that wouldn't be able to be recycled again into Hezbollah's front lines. So that last figure, I don't fully understand. It remains ambiguous, even to me. Now, another part of the story is that the circle, or let's say the supply chain circle of the original pager attack is growing in very interesting ways. Now, you'll recall that I mentioned that the pagers originally were linked to a company in Taiwan called Gold Apollo, which distanced themselves and passed the football or the potato to a company based in Hungary, that company called BAC Consulting in Budapest, whose CEO, Cristiana Barsoni Arcidiacono, is on the run. She's originally from Sicily, so it looks like she may be back on the run to the bosom of the Godfather, to the bosom of the Corleone family in Sicily. That's just my attempt to be a little bit funny in all this. She's originally from Sicily, and reports are that her apartment was suddenly abandoned in Budapest, Hungary, the door even being left ajar. In fact, she left so quickly she didn't even bother to close the door. The media in Hungary says that she's currently under the protection of their Secret Service. She's already receiving death threats by sympathizers to Hezbollah for whatever role she allegedly played in all this. Again, her name is Cristiana Barsoni Arcidiacono, and she's a native of Sicily. But guess what? They claim that they were just mediators of the sale of the pagers. And in fact, the real company responsible for all this is based in Bulgaria's capital, Sofia, and they're called Norte Global. But the problem is Norte Global, which is registered to an apartment or a building in Sofia, Bulgaria, their CEO is based himself in Norway. And we even have his name. His name is Rinson Jose. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. He's based in Norway, and he's currently on the run. Rather, we're being told that he's in the middle of traveling the world, okay? In fact, some people claim he was traveling to the United States when all this happened. So, the supply chain circle of the original pager attack continues to grow and get wider and wider. And I'm sure by the time I file a video in a few days from now, there'll be even more life and more facts. Learn this term in Hebrew. I'll probably say it often in future videos. Nechon la'achshav. Nechon la'achshav, which means in Hebrew, the truth as it is currently being reported, or as it's currently understood. The facts at this present time, okay? And those facts can change. And of course, based on what I just told you, many things have changed, or our understanding has deepened since the original attack a few days ago. So, Nechon Achshav are the facts that I just gave you, and it could be in a few days from now, they will have gone in different directions. Now, yesterday on September 20th, Israel continued this blitzkrieg of attacks on Hezbollah by attacking a building in southern Beirut in the Dahi neighborhood of Beirut. That's the Hezbollah stronghold, dropping a bomb on an apartment block, which killed up to 20, although I've heard some people say 30, but let's go. I always want to err on the side of conservatism. I'd rather be caught understating something than caught exaggerating something. So about 20 people killed, the most important of which was a guy by the name of Ibrahim Akil. Who is he? He's the head of Hezbollah's Radwan brigade. Radwan is Hezbollah's most elite unit. They're arrayed on the border with Israel on the eastern side of that border, closer to the town of Metula and the city Kiryat Shmona and the Golan Heights. That area, okay, the Golan Heights border both Syria and Lebanon. And they were training, and I had read this already a year ago, so at least this part is well known. That unit, Radwan, has been training for an October 7-like attack for years. Their goal was to do exactly what Hamas did on Israel's frontier with Gaza. Their goal, the Radwan unit of Hezbollah, was to invade Israel's border on the north with Lebanon, capture several kibbutzim, farms, settlements on Israel's northern frontier, killing, maiming, and kidnapping Israelis to be taken back into Hezbollah's territory. That was their original plan. And we have to remember, as I'm giving this update, that the original plan was for Hezbollah, Hamas, and all these other militias to attack Israel simultaneously in the future, at a time after which Iran would finally have nuclear weapons to provide a nuclear shield against which it was believed that Israel wouldn't be able to retaliate then, even with its own nuclear weapons, because it would be in danger of retaliation by an Iranian nuclear device or incoming rocket or missile. The problem was, is to be recalled from previous videos I made, Hamas jumped the gun. They attacked Israel out of league or out of concert with the other team members, Hezbollah and Iran, for whatever reason that they did this, that they were impulsive, and they sort of ruined the plan. And that was the plan, to attack Israel in a coordinated attack all together after Iran had nuclear weapons. And Hamas prematurely jumped the gun, okay? And everything has happened as a result of that for the past year. So Radwan was training for a October 7 style attack, and Israel killed its leader, who also happened to be the leader of Hezbollah's special operations, who also happened to be the current #2 man in Hezbollah after the leader himself, Nasrallah. This guy, Ibrahim Akil, the person who we're talking about right now, replaced the previous second man in Hezbollah, who Israel took out at the end of July when some of us were together on a cruise in the Aegean Sea. What else is this guy associated with, Ibrahim Akil? Well, supposedly or allegedly, he played a key role in the bombing of both the American embassy and Marine barracks in Beirut in 1983, and the United States had a $7 million bounty on his head. Okay, so in killing him, Israel disposed not only of a key member of Hezbollah in its current war with Israel, but it also, you could say, settled accounts on behalf of America. America wanted to settle accounts with this guy as well, but as I've mentioned, shamefully, America's embarrassed to even support Israel's phenomenal attack, both with the pagers and yesterday. In other words, doing everything it can to distance itself from what Israel's done the past week, out of fear that somehow this will raise the ire of Iran and Hezbollah and Shiite militants against America itself, okay? Projecting weakness instead of speaking the Middle Eastern language, which I call Middle Easternese, which is the language of strength. Now, I concluded my last video by telling you that the pager attack was originally meant to be the opening salvo of a all-out attack on Hezbollah, an all-out war between Israel and Hezbollah, and that this attack even took place the day after the Israeli War Cabinet decided to make as an official goal the defeat of Hezbollah, basically, and the restoration of Israel's displaced northern inhabitants back to their homes and cities. We're talking about 60 to 80,000 people have been displaced from northern Israel because of Hezbollah's daily assault of Israel with rockets and missiles. The most serious attack of which, if you may recall, killed 12 Druze children on Israel's Golan Heights. And I was surprised, and I said, I don't understand why Israel didn't follow through with this incredible attack, which, based on the Saudi intercept that I just shared with you, has Hezbollah being far more wounded than we originally believed. We're talking about a couple thousand people seriously wounded who'll never return to the ranks of Hezbollah's front line. Now, Hezbollah is believed to only have between 30 to 40,000 soldiers, so a loss of that magnitude. And again, from that intercept, we learn a couple hundred of its officers were killed. Why didn't Israel follow through with the full-fledged war that this was originally meant to open? Well, a few minutes after I made the video, I watched the news in Israel itself. There's some very good people on Israel's Channel 12, experts on Israel's Mossad insiders, former Mossad people, former generals, and they were asked this question: why didn't Israel follow through the pager attack with the full-fledged war? And they basically said that Israel's goal is to end what Hezbollah declared would be a war of attrition. Hezbollah's strategy is to keep Israel in a long, open-ended war because they believe in, they're sort of correct, that Israel's defense, its army, and its economy are not geared towards open-ended wars. From the founding of Israel, there's always been three principles that Israel's security establishment has followed, which is to wage war quickly and therefore massively as a blitzkrieg, and to wage it entirely on foreign territory. In other words, on enemy territory, not Israel itself. Well, this war is already 11 months long and has therefore betrayed one of those three founding principles of Israel's defense posture. Hezbollah wanted to keep this going. Not just Hezbollah, by the way. Hezbollah's master Iran strategies to keep this war going open-ended, to bleed Israel's economy, to bleed the morale of its population, okay, to diminish the morale of the population, to diminish the country's world standing as Israel becomes more and more unpopular with the world as the war drags on. And Israel decided a week ago to make an end of this war of attrition, to greatly now increase the magnitude of the war. Each successive attack of Israel will now be disproportional to what Hezbollah does. If Hezbollah sends 20 rockets to Israel, Israel will launch hundreds of counterattacks on Hezbollah. The pager attack, the attack that killed Ibrahim Akil yesterday, all these things are now a gradual raising of the magnitude from Israel's end, regardless of what Hezbollah does, to try to force Hezbollah to climb down from the lofty tree that it decided to climb on October 8th. Hezbollah declared publicly that it would not end its war with Israel until there'd be a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Israel is trying to decouple Hezbollah from that war with Hamas, to get them to cry uncle before Israel's war with Hamas in Gaza ends. And now Israel's strategy is to gradually amp up the attacks, both the frequency of these counterattacks against Hezbollah as well as the severity and magnitude of these attacks, to try to get Hezbollah to basically throw in the towel and avoid a full-fledged war, which Israel is capable of fighting, but it would cost the Israeli home front dearly. It could even be catastrophic, as Hezbollah has something like 250,000 projectiles. Some of them are guided by GPS systems that could hit much of Israel's infrastructure, its government buildings, its cities, and do tremendous damage and maybe cost thousands of Israeli lives. So while Israel is capable of fighting that war and destroying Hezbollah and destroying Lebanon, it would come at such a severe price that it's still trying to avoid that all-out war by getting Hezbollah to throw in the towel. And that's what this current strategy is all about. Well, that ends my update. And I was going to get into a Bible study entitled Making Sense of the End Times. And I was going to begin with Revelation chapter 20. But after giving a go of it, I just cut out about 30 minutes from this video. I realized the video was way too long, and therefore I'm going to begin this series making sense of the end times at a future date. I would say the next episode, but events are happening so quickly in Israel and Lebanon that I just feel compelled to give updates about them and leave the Bible stuff for separate videos unto themselves, as they deserve to have their own time free of being front-loaded with the news. So this is Steve, the tour guide, telling you that this video is coming to an end. It's run its course. Thanks for persevering to the end. I hope this update was helpful, and you enjoy the rest of your weekend as I hope to enjoy mine. I'm signing off. Bye-bye.